buddy. Long time no see.
What up? What up? Reunited, and it feels so good.
Reunited and it feels... We probably can't sing that whole song, be copyrighted. But hello. Yes, welcome back to the Pixelists. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm well as well. Nice use of well, by the way. I would have said okay or I would have said good had you not said well, which is incorrect.
I was gonna say okay, and then just stare at the camera in silence for a minute. If you were like, all right, so
we're gonna call this one short today.
Which those of you listening, thanks for listening, and I hope you are doing well today. Welcome to the Pixelists podcast, where we talk about shows and movies that we love. And we're talking some what if today, some what if finale. And I guess since it's been we're a little late in making this ep, maybe some post season discussion as well. Good Lord, what is that you are drinking out of, by the way?
It's Mjolnir.
A Mjolnir coffee mug.
Yeah, I figured it was fitting because especially we'll talk about it, but especially fitting.
How dare you assume you are worthy to carry that? How dare you?
I guess I am.
Guess so.
Well,
but yeah, so we're here and we're talking some what if. So
we are, yeah, and like Blake mentioned, by the way, that's Blake. I'm Will. We are the Pixelists. Hello. It's a little bit late. Life gets in the way sometimes, but hey, you know, the good news is it was the finale, so it's not like we're behind any episodes. And I actually kind of enjoyed this time to let it like marinate and kind of see how I really felt about it.
I think letting it simmer and also letting people who maybe hadn't caught up yet. I know a couple people were like a couple weeks behind, and so catching up, and now you can tune in to our deep dive discussion. And first things first, what'd you think about the finale?
I liked it, man. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice ribbon on the whole season, especially because
the gift that was what if.
Exactly, because we actually got a lot of loose ends tied up, which we had been kind of wondering about throughout the whole season. So I was really happy to kind of see basically almost every loose end get tied up from all the previous episodes, except a couple. But some of those things might be leading into season 2. But yeah, I liked it on the whole. I think that the Doctor Strange episode and the penultimate episode eke above the finale just in terms of like standalone, how much did I enjoy it?
Sure.
But I would say that it's firmly in third place for me of all the episodes this season. What about you?
Yeah, the Doctor Strange episode definitely would be my overall favorite. It was a good isolated episode. Mm-hmm. This one was a nice finale and a nice end of the try episode that we have seen, which was interesting. I'm not against it. It's interesting that the direction of the show was so every episode's insulated, and then the back third, the last 3 episodes were all a continual story, which is a bit of a departure from how the show's been designed previous to that. Loved the episode, though. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a great finale. I loved the touch of, as we were doing these episodes, we were like, oh man, that episode was really dark. Like, it's a very bleak ending. And it was a really cool, it was like, the Watcher breaking the seal of getting involved. He was like, oh, in that situation, taking care of that one. Oh, in that world, I'm going to take care of that one. And so having every dark episode actually end up getting cleaned up, I thought was pretty interesting. And I mean, part of me kind of wonders if those universes are now going to play out where like a Kang arises. So maybe it's like the what's the expression of the monkey's paw a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But I do wonder if I wonder what happens with those worlds. But it was a really nice, like, oh, it's cool how these all got tied back into the finale beyond just pulling characters from those stories.
Yeah, for sure. And some of them, and I don't know if we're jumping ahead here. I mean, I guess we're fine. It's the finale. We can do whatever we want. But I guess let me just give a really quick recap of what happened, and then we can just jump into everything. So the as we left off, basically, it's infinity powered Ultron versus the Watcher. He gets defeated, so he kind of returns to Dark Doctor Strange and is like, "Help me, let's do this." And essentially, the episode is the Watcher going to recruit all of these heroes that we've seen, except for one, which we'll talk about a little bit, uh, referencing Gamora,
Right.
since we never got an episode about that. But so he goes and recruits Captain Peggy Carter, Star Lord T'Challa, Killmonger Black Panther, Party Thor, and this Gamora from an episode we did not see. And they are basically the guardians of the multiverse. And he has gathered them all up to try and defeat Ultron. And there's this grand plan that, he says, only your unique combination of abilities can do it, yada, yada, yada. So they team up, get this plan together, ultimately start fighting Ultron. Um, and even though she wasn't part of the team, the Black Widow from the previous episode kind of is basically part of the team, just wasn't
Right.
recruited in the same way. So they go back to her planet, have this big battle, awesome battle, by the way. I'm sure we'll talk about it. Um, Things don't go to plan. The Infinity Stone Destroyer that they had been told was like the goal ends up not working. So the battle kind of takes a turn. Kind of not sure what's going to happen. They eventually shoot the Hawkeye Zola arrow into Ultron. The AIs start battling, and it kind of gives the heroes a chance to get the upper hand. And basically, the episode ends with the Killmonger going to take the stones from like the temporarily downed Ultron, and he gets them, and then everyone's about to, go to blows with him. But that's when Doctor Strange kind of realizes the greater plan that was in motion here, and he traps Killmonger and Ultron Zola, who are kind of in the middle of this like confrontation, trying to get the stones from each other. Inside a pocket dimension, and then he basically returns to his pocket dimension to guard that pocket dimension, and it's pocket
Inception
dimension
of
inception,
yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then the rest of the heroes kind of return to their worlds like at the exact time they left, except for Black Widow, who the Watcher returns to the world we saw in episode 3, which is where all the Avengers died. So like that Black Widow was dead, and so he sent her to that world to take her
Hmm.
place. Um,
Yeah.
and that was pretty much it. We did get a post-credit scene, which was Captain Carter back having returned to her universe, basically stumbling upon presumably Skinny Steve in the Hydra Smasher armor in her present day.
Which I was confused placing that because we don't know what happened to Steve, right?
Correct. Yeah. So should we
Because
just?
that
I was just saying, you just want to like dive into that really quick, kind of
well,
dissect
yeah,
that.
it's the only it was only the only thing I didn't feel it left much more, it begged much more to be answered.
Yeah.
Because at first my misremembering was, oh, right, he fell off the train and fell into like the abyss, like the ravine. And so I guess they've been, winter soldiering him, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. But then I remembered actually at the end of that episode, they rescue him from Red
Right.
Skull's like final base. And so, and then we don't know what happens to him because Captain Carter goes through the portal basically to stop,
Right.
um, Tentacle Monster.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing was I was like, okay, so at some point he gets recaptured by Hydra. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's my best guess because it seems like they're making the Winter Soldier parallel. Uh, Maybe they're not, and maybe it's something else. But to me, yeah, that he probably got captured again at some point, and has maybe maybe is the Bucky proxy. Maybe he's the Hydra assassin that's been frozen and sent on these missions throughout time. Because the other thing to consider is in the Winter Soldier movie, which that kind of scene was mirroring, except with Peggy instead of Steve.
Yeah.
That like ship they're going on is actually a Hydra thing because Nick Fury's investigating that Hydra may have infiltrated Shield, Project Insight, or whatever. So maybe the parallel is that they're on that mission again because this is something to do with Hydra, and so therefore, if that's true, then the armor would be Hydra's, right? So
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess
yeah,
my only conjecture was, this is total like personal opinion, is they wrote the Captain Carter episode and then later not retconned it, but I almost feel like they realized after the fact of like, oh, this would have been a stronger parallel if Steve had not been at the end of the Captain Carter episode. Because the parallel is really pronounced, and we know that in the original Captain America, uh, Bucky falls from the train, presumed dead, and then pops up in the outro of whichever film it is.
yeah,
But it is the premise of Winter Soldier, right?
right,
And so now there's this sort of awkward, we rescued him. Oh, but he got captured again. That's the
yeah,
only thing that's a little clunky. And so it kind of
yeah,
makes me wonder if, like, after the fact, they were like, hey, let's go back. They're on the ship. This is the perfect setup to have this parallel. Um, that's what I tell myself in my mind, at least. But I have
yeah.
no idea. Maybe they
No,
planned it all along.
I mean, I agree. You're saying that you think it would be a little bit stronger had we just not seen Steve again when
Definitely.
he fell
Yeah.
off the train until this moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean,
Yeah.
it rhymes so well.
Mhm.
Now it's a little weird's not the right word. It's just a little clunky now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that would have been a little better. I guess the other side of this is maybe that's not what's going on. Maybe Steve, like, maybe he became obsessed with like trying to find Peggy throughout his life, and ripple effect somehow got to this position, and it has nothing, like, he's not the Winter Soldier proxy. He's just, this is his own unique story, and he's arrived here. Or maybe Steve's
Maybe
not even the one in there.
yeah, or maybe he didn't get captured again. Maybe he joined Hydra
Oh,
thinking
like,
that
just
this is the
the only
means
way.
to, yeah, find Peggy Carter, since I
Yeah.
mean the portal that she first went into originally came from Hydra. Maybe it was, I need to join Hydra to save her. I don't know.
Yeah. See, that would be cool. And I think, we know there's a season 2 coming, and more Peggy Carter has been confirmed. I think that's one of the only things that like has been confirmed. So clearly I think it was just a setup for, like, teasing season 2. So I think these are answers we will get, we'll have to see.
I like what you're implying though, or your spin on, maybe it's not a gotcha, but like it's set up as a parallel, but it might be different entirely. Because that is what made the second and the third and so on episode so good, was the first episode with Peggy Carter was such a perfect mirror
Mm-hmm.
of the Captain America movie that we kind of were set up to see similar storylines with small differences.
Yeah.
And instead, I mean, I'm thinking about the Star-Lord Black Panther episode, where T'Challa is Star-Lord, where it went a total different way.
Right.
So I think it could actually be a nice little, like, we're thinking maybe we're getting a new version of the Winter Soldier film or something to that effect, but actually maybe it's totally different.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, that would be cool. And I guess we just have to wait and see. I don't think they've like given any type of time frame on when we're to expect season 2. Maybe they have, but I haven't seen it if so.
I haven't either. Yeah.
But I did, kind of while we're here, since it's sort of related, on the post credit and kind of Peggy's wrap up. I thought it was interesting how she asked the Watcher, like, "Hey, you send me back to my original time," and he said, like, "I can't. I'm not gonna do that. Can't do that. Plus, your time still needs Peggy Carter or whatever."
Right.
So I thought it was interesting, kind of how, and there's a big controversy over like Cap's ending in Endgame. Like, some people saying it doesn't even make sense with the time travel rules. I'm not going to dive into this whole can of worms right now because that'll be like a whole podcast in and of itself. But, basically there's some people that love his ending, some people that hate it, think it's like completely against his character. So I don't know if I'm trying to like dig too deeply on this, but I was wondering if that was at all a commentary on that, being like, yeah, you can't go back. Like, your world needs you. But even,
I
no,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
familiar. I'm not familiar with the controversy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't even seen anything like that. But now speaking on it, 8 seconds into it, if anything, the people who felt like that was against his nature, I think the dialogue from her does a really nice pairing with that, because she says, "Haven't I earned my happy ending?"
Yeah.
And it was almost like I'm ready to put up the shield, so to speak. And I think that's a really nice nod to Steve Rogers at the end of Endgame being like, yeah, I think I'm done fighting. I think I'm
Yeah.
ready to again, I don't know anything about the controversy, but it's a nice pairing at least.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I liked that like she kind of had that same desire at least, you know. But the one thing that I found interesting, kind of taking a step away from that, is that he was like, "No, I'm not doing that," and then 10 seconds later, he does it for Black Widow. You know?
Is it because he's all knowing though? Like, does he? Because here's what was really weird was putting Killmonger on the team. Like you're like, okay, everyone I see as a fit except for this guy. This guy sucks. I mean, he's a bad dude, right?
Yeah,
And we see in before he gets pulled to join the team that Wakanda is basically in flames, which was interesting because where we left the episode was that they had gotten the upper hand on the droid unit.
yeah,
Um, and it seemed like Wakanda was positioned now for maybe even like global domination. I don't know.
yeah,
And they had crippled America's largest multi-billion, trillion, whatever force. But we see Wakanda basically in flames. It's like the last line of defense. And Shuri has paired up with what's her name?
Pepper Potts.
Pepper Potts, and they're running to like the final room
Yeah,
where he's holed up. Uh, but point being, though, besides that, he gets grabbed, and you're kind of like, that's a weird thing to, person to grab because he's unworthy, I guess, so to speak. And then Doctor Strange has this realization of, oh, we were never meant to win. Almost like it was almost like how with the Time Stone, he could see every outcome and he knew what needed to happen for it to happen.
mm,
I almost wondered if the Watcher had a similar gift. Like we talked about in the last episode we did, that he was seemingly all knowing in terms of each individual timeline. He says, I know what has happened, what
yeah.
will happen. Does this omniscience expand to this situation? Like he knew like this would lead to, Killmonger getting, trying to take the stones and so on. And more importantly, to tie it back to what you were saying, is the reason he said you can't go back because he knows ultimately about the greater good of that universe that she's in. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the answer to both things is yes. I think that, he does know, he even said the word like I've seen the beginning, middle, and end of all stories, or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think he does know that like, Peggy needs to be in her timeline, for the greater good. Maybe even because he knew Steve was in her timeline now, if that is Steve in the Hydra Stomper armor. But yeah, I think he does have some form of omniscience, And I thought the same thing at the beginning of the episode when Killmonger was recruited. I was like, this guy's not a hero. Like, why is he part of this squad? But then it made sense because it's like, if he's the Watcher and has access to these infinite universes, he could grab way more powerful heroes than the ones we have. Like, there's Thor is like the only one that's like actually like Omega level powerful among these people. So he could have
Right.
just gotten 100 Thors. But so why this team? And I think it's because he knew exactly what had to happen. That really maybe this Ultron could not be defeated, which is one thing I think we talked about last episode. It's like, can they even
Right.
beat him, or do they have to just,
Right.
contain him some way? And so I think, the Watcher could foresee this and knew that, all right, even though Killmonger is a POS, like he's integral because he's going to create that stalemate at that precise moment
Right.
that will allow Doctor Strange, to capture them or whatever we want to call it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I also think that's why he probably one kind of let them think the Infinity Crusher was going to work to kind of let Ultron get confident, because they hold him down, they put the Infinity Crusher on him, and he's like, "Oh, your stones are different, and this isn't going to work on me." So then he gets kind of cocky and kind of lets his guard down a little bit, which then lets the Zola arrow hit him. But also the Watcher's not even a part of this battle, right? So Ultron doesn't even know that like he's pulling the strings, which is probably another reason why he's like, I'm in no real danger here at all. So I
Yeah.
think I think this was all machinations and
Yeah.
puppetry.
I did wonder why the Watcher didn't get involved because he almost kind of went toe to toe with
Mhm.
Ultron. Like we definitely realized last episode, while the Watcher isn't just like this benign, weak, creepy dude who's like watching, like he goes Super Saiyan, and puts
Yeah.
on his armor, and they battle it out, and it's almost like they exchange blows. Like it's almost, you think like, wow, the Watcher's much more powerful than we realized.
Right.
So I was wondering, why would the Watcher not get involved himself to tip the power scales? But it makes sense what you're saying. Like if he's out of sight, out of mind, it does seem to bait Ultron a little bit better.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, that's exactly the same like journey I went through. I was like, why is he not helping them? But then I was like, okay, maybe it's because like the Doctor Strange 14 million outcomes. Like this is the one that allowed them to have that stalemate. So
And in a way, grabbing Killmonger was actually pretty brilliant because, you have all these heroes who are sort of bonding and connecting, and he is the obvious outsider of the group in the sense of he's not, rubbing shoulders with anyone. And I imagine almost he thinks he's gotten the upper hand even on the Watcher in the
yeah,
group of like, here's a bunch of heroes. I'm definitely not a hero. And it plays perfectly into his personality from the previous episode where he is a string puller, and he is pushing buttons and making things happen behind the scenes. He's a brilliant tactician. I imagine he's similarly thinking like, I've really fooled all these people,
yeah,
which the Watcher even baited him into.
yeah. And I wondered like what he was gonna do with the stones. Like I know he was kind of bargaining with them, being like, we can use these to fix all of our worlds. But I don't believe that he was gonna do that. Like I think he was just gonna do his own thing. So I don't know if that was like an
I think
earnest moment from him, or if he was just trying to like in that moment get them to like back down away from him type of thing.
I think it's the latter. We've seen him in almost every scene he's in. He is a manipulator
Yeah.
and, path of least resistance, right? And so, um, in my mind, I don't want to have to go toe to toe with all of these people. I mean, he just saw Doctor Strange swallow like a universe bomb,
Yes. Yeah, we got to
which
talk
was
about
I
that.
love that animation of like the gobbling up
Yeah.
of and even Ultron's like,
What?
what? Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
That was well, we'll swing back to that because I do want to talk about the battle.
okay.
But one last thing on the Killmonger thing that I was wondering if you had an idea on what this was. So, he's obsessed with that Ultron helmet like throughout the whole episode because when the Watcher grabs Thor, he's fighting them and he like brings the helmet with him, which also I think was part of the grand plan, because he ends up using that helmet to like extract the stones. And so what was going on there? Was that just because like that Ultron Sentry was created with the reality stones, so maybe it had some like how is he using that to telekinetically like pull the stones out and bring them to himself?
The implication I got was like in an earlier scene, he's holding it, and you almost get the impression I first got was that he was sort of studying it, like learning his opponent.
Mm-hmm.
In hindsight, we know that he's brilliant, that he went to MIT. I mean, this guy is incredibly smart. And so in hindsight, the way I headcanon it is that he's studying it and learning it. I mean, he partnered up with uh, um, Iron Man. I don't know why I'm blanking on his
Tony
name.
Stark.
Tony Stark. Thank you. Golly.
Yeah.
He partnered with Tony Stark to build his
Yeah.
AI force. And so I almost get the impression that it was a nod towards him. Like I sort of envision everyone asleep and he's cracking it open and like really like exploring and seeing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What's your take on it?
I I don't know. The Reality Stone thing was my best guess, or just some latent like vibranium, if that's what it was made of, which I assume it was, just properties of the armor that, or maybe it's just kind of a flavor thing, because like every time the character has like acquired the stones like that, it has been,
Mhm.
that type of telekinetic come to me moment. So I mean, I'm kind of just, it's not a big deal. I was just curious, like what that was in the moment.
Yeah. I did like how it played out, like finale wise though, because Killmonger's on the team and you're immediately feeling weird about it because it's like this doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
Same thing with Zola. I mean, it's like,
Right.
okay, Zola's gonna take over, but we can't trust Zola. And so those were a couple of loose ends in my mind that I liked how no, we were counting on them being untrustworthy,
Yeah.
because we needed them to have the never-ending power struggle that we could encapsulate into the pocket universe,
Yeah,
the snow globe.
which
Which is interesting that Doctor Strange was content to go back to his prison.
yeah, I was wondering like I mean he seems to be truly, remorseful for everything that's happened and, is trying to kind of like not make
Almost
up
seems
for it.
redeemed. Yeah.
Yeah. But so like I kept wondering if like there was going to be any type of hint of like, maybe like the post-credit scene might have even been him like doing something. But, it seems like maybe cuz we even speculated that like wouldn't it be crazy if like that Doctor Strange was in the
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home or whatever, which he still I guess could be.
Right.
But yeah, there were really no inclinations of him having any type of sinister or ulterior motives. Um,
I
which
like sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say which was cool, and I mean I do expect that to come back up again at some point. There's like three colossally powerful entities just sitting in a pocket dimension, so
I
surely that's not gonna
agree.
be ignored.
Yeah, I agree. It is a burning fuse that's maybe burning incredibly slowly. I
Yeah.
expect it to be a big deal later on. I thought it was a great ending to his character arc, though. Not that
Hmm.
they don't need to bring him back. I really love that character,
Yeah.
and like I mentioned, love that episode. But yeah, we see him almost seemingly redeemed is maybe too strong a word, but content to understand that this is my role now, and this is, what the path that I've, paved, and this is my life now.
Yeah.
So,
And
but
speaking of Zola, real quick before we move away from this, I just thought it was not. I mean, it's not really an Easter egg, I guess, but just a really cool like shout out that when he took over Ultron, his face appeared in the stomach, which is like if you're familiar with Zola from the comics, he's like the disembodied head that's in the middle of this big robot. So it was kind of like an allusion to his true form, as it were.
yeah,
Um,
I had read something like that, that it was how his character was portrayed in the comics, which to me, again, just communicates these are the showrunners, show writers are Marvel fans. That's
yeah,
how you build a fan base is it's people who understand the game, so to speak.
yeah, and we've lauded them all series for this, but they did a great job, and I mean, even though we kind of already talked about this, like I was pleasantly surprised and really enjoyed the season as a whole, mainly for reasons like that.
It was a great show. I don't ever really watch animated shows, and I thought it was really good. Really well told. I was doing some reading on Reddit, which I've pretty much stayed away from during the season, and I was glad to know that many people hated the zombie episode like I did. So I felt vindicated for that.
Well, speaking of vindication, guess who showed back up this episode? The zombies. You called me
I
crazy, and
didn't see a zombie
I
Thanos
know it
though.
wasn't
I
zombie
didn't see a
Thanos, but I'm just
battle.
saying they used the zombies against them. And I was, bro, when that moment happened, I was like, no, is zombie Thanos about to come out here?
This
He
is my
didn't.
moment.
He didn't,
Though,
but
how awesome though, because I didn't understand this, but I read a comment on Reddit afterwards of the Scarlet Witch hesitating. And I thought, did she hesitate because she realized her power was basically useless? And then I saw a Reddit comment that basically she recognized Vision.
mm,
And so that's why she was like, wait, what?
yeah.
And then again, I mean, just the power level of Ultron to just basically, snap and decimate the entire zombie force. There was
Yeah.
some really awesome moments, like displays of power. Like hats off to the animation team, the writing team, the storyboarding team of like designing this. Like it felt like you were watching, like it made sense. Like it felt like you were watching something pretty incredible. And then lastly, the sound team. We were watching on my big TV, and like some of it was like the blaring of Ultron's power, especially when he like raised up into the air and was sort of like, I don't know what he was doing, like channeling Spirit Bomb or something, but he's basically glimmering up in the sky, and the sound design of that
Yeah.
scene was pretty powerful too. It was really cool. They did
Yeah.
a great job.
Agreed. And I do want to talk a little bit more about the battle, but I have one more thing on the Scarlet Witch. Yeah, I want to get your take on. since she is the one that showed up, do you take that to mean that she killed zombie Thanos with all the stones? Because like, why
Mm,
her? Like, you seem like they would grab the most
great
powerful
point.
entity from
Yeah.
that universe. So to me, I was like, damn. I kind of took that to mean that she, like, he showed up like he has in all these other universes, and she just took him out.
That's a great point. I don't know. Yeah, that's a great point.
But so I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I'm gonna headcanon that it's true, and I just take that to just show again how powerful she is. That like, you know, because that's kind of the tease we got in Infinity War. I don't know, I never know which one to reference, but because she almost takes him out in that movie until he, danger closes.
In game. In game.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he does danger close and um but and he doesn't have all the stones yet.
That's
So
true.
now
That's
we
true.
have a maybe dumber Thanos with all the stones. I don't know
Yeah.
how the cognitive ability works. She's just full on, rage machine. Um yeah, and again we said it already, but I just loved the callbacks to each episode. And my thought was, did they summon all the zombies from that world? Meaning, is it now zombie free? And like, are the survivors okay to repopulate? Or is that universe
Yeah.
just like when Thanos showed up, is it implied that T'Challa and Peter Parker are dead? Um, I don't know.
See, I didn't get the implication that they summoned all of them because that would have been billions, right? Like theoretically, which it didn't seem like there were that many. But that is one thing I was wondering because that I think there might have been another episode, but we kind of alluded to this at the beginning. That was one that we didn't really get any loose ends tied up for. Yeah, we got the reference to it in the fact
Right.
that they used the zombies to attack it, but we never got any closure on what happened to our heroes from that episode. So I
But
was
it,
wondering.
it was a cool scene though, which was it Doctor Strange who summoned them?
Yeah, because he opened a portal, I think,
Yeah, and then
right?
they, the animation of them just,
Pouring
piling
out.
out into a
Yeah.
big pile. It did make me wonder his insight into other universes. Like, because I thought, how did he know about that?
Right, and just his insight, like, because he has like the portal ring that lets him teleport,
Right.
wherever, but like, I guess even between realities, right? Because that was a
Yeah.
whole different universe, as you said. Which I know I mentioned earlier, like the power level thing. He could have just had 10,000 Thors. Well, I should have said 10,000 Doctor Stranges because clearly this Dark Doctor Strange is the most powerful person on the team. Like
Not even
MVP,
close. Not even
MVP
close.
for sure. Like,
Like it'd be like, yeah, I mean, he did 99% and it'd be like everyone else being good job us and him being
yeah,
like, what's that meme? Like, but you didn't do anything.
yeah.
My job here is done.
He carried the team on his back for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
And like that armor that he gave everyone, that was so cool. Just speaking to your comment on like the attention to detail for like the artists and everything. There was like each person, it was only like a couple seconds long that he like cast that and everyone got their armor, but each person's had their own like flavor. I don't know if you noticed that like
No, yeah, great
T'Challa
point.
and Killmonger's kind of had some like Wakandan flair. Peggy Carter had like it was like a knight's armor.
Right.
Uh,
Okay, yeah.
Thor's looked, kind of like Asgardian. Um, but yeah, he just was clearly the MVP. That Mjolnir part where he like made a million of them, that was so cool.
Yeah. But that goes to my point though of like the storyboarders, whatever you would call them, like being like, okay, and then this happens. And it's not like, "Well, that was weird." It's like, ooh, that is so cool. Like summoning all these Mjolnirs to, you know, deck Ultron from every angle. I mean,
Yeah,
it was the creative wise, the episode was really fun.
it was. And I know you already mentioned it, but I gotta say it again because it was probably maybe my favorite part of the whole episode, where Ultron just got to the point where he's like, okay, I'm done with this, and like does his typical like I'm exploding this whole galaxy, and then it just shows Doctor Strange eat it, which like doesn't really make sense, but it's just like I guess a way to display like the power, and he's just so taken aback by it that he's like, what? Which
Yeah.
was my exact thing that I said like out loud at the same time, so I just love that. And I know it's probably one of those things that you aren't really supposed to try and make sense of, but like, how did he do that? Like, is it just he's just powerful enough to like did he use the time stone in some form to like revert that back to when it was like just starting and he ate it then, or like Because the explosion was like the size of a galaxy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it
Presumably.
was galaxy ending is what I took it as.
Yeah.
I don't know the mechanics of it. I don't think it was the time stone. Though I will say I loved when Ultron finally used the time stone
Hmm.
and you're like, "Oh no, it's over." And then you find the one person who's not affected by it because he has his own time stone, Stephen Strange.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know the mechanics of it. I just thought again, I just envision like the showrunners like watching the final product, like the animators like being, "Here's what we came up with," and then just like smiling and being like, "Yes, that is so perfect."
Yeah, and I'm really glad they put in that time stone moment because I was wondering, we've been kind of speculating. I'm like, do the stones work in other universes? And clearly they do, but there are like some weird rules about it apparently. But I was wondering, like in this battle, why is he not just using the time stone to like just kill them
It
all? Or after they stole the stone from him, why not just revert time till you had it back? And so I love that they like gave the explanation of that because like yeah, he could have done that, but Stephen Strange would have just like nulled it.
Yeah, it was, like what, like a 20-30 second scene, and it's great because it keeps us nerds from after the fact being like, "So why didn't he just do this?"
Wait. Yeah.
Which, for me, it makes it less credible, like, when you're just like, "Well, why wouldn't he just do that?"
Hmm.
And so that the fact that they put those kind of things in, I'm not trying to sound like a total, like, broken record or, like, just thirsting over Marvel, but it's just like, yeah, to me, it communicates. I mean, you could very easily just print money and just be like, "Okay, yeah, they fight," but instead it's like, "Oh, no, they really put an attention to detail of, okay, why doesn't he use the time stone? Okay, he does, but then Stephen Strange, he can be nullified. He can nullify it, so to speak." Um, so yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing on the battle I did want to touch on, we can move on if you're ready to, was I just love the again attention to detail of the fact that the reason why T'Challa Star-Lord was part of this team was for his sticky fingers. Like he stole the Soul Stone, and you can actually see that happen if you like cut it back, which was the perfect setup from his episode since they did the same thing to the Collector.
Right.
Um, so I loved that, yeah, there is a specific reason that it was this team, and it's because
Mhm.
T'Challa could steal it, and Killmonger was gonna, I just liked that.
Mhm. Yeah, and we already said it too, but I liked him going back and basically saving, Peter Quill
Yeah,
as well. So, and it seems like now they're gonna have like a bit of a kinda like Falcon Winter Soldier, like
yeah,
Star-Lord and half god, Dairy Queen worker.
yeah. That
So,
was interesting that he was like part of the
yeah,
crew at the end. So,
yeah.
which
So,
I don't know if we'll ever get a continuation of that story unless they like recast, I guess, T'Challa. But
they'd have to, right?
yeah,
Which if we're done talking about the actual episode, I'd like to get your take on, maybe on this back half of this episode we're doing right now, on general thoughts about the season as a whole, including maybe some of the high points and then maybe some of the misses or things that you think they could have done differently.
okay, yeah. Um,
So
there,
let's maybe start with general reactions of the entire season, including the high points.
yeah. I mean, not to sound like a broken record, but I enjoyed it. I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I'm clearly, as I'm sure anyone that's watching this can tell, we enjoy Marvel stuff. So like, I didn't go in thinking this is gonna suck. So I was like, yeah, I'm excited for this. But my expectations were over met. Um,
Mhm.
I really enjoyed it. Loved the animation style. Um, the really we if you've watched us, we've talked about this. But the first episode, I was like, this is fun. Like I enjoy the show. And then episode 2 blew me away. And from that
Yeah.
point on, I was like, okay, this is really cool. I enjoy what they're doing here. And then the fact that they were able to bring it all together, tie it all together at the end was like a very nice um addition. Like I think even if they hadn't done that, I still would have really liked it. But the fact that they like kind of took the time to tie it all together really set it over the top for me. Um, I don't know if it's fair to compare it to all the live action shows. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I don't think it's definitely like WandaVision and Loki still edge it out for me in terms of like my favorite that they've put out so far. Um, but really liked it. Looking forward to season 2. And like we mentioned, I still think the Doctor Strange episode is probably my favorite, followed by episode 8.
The
Because there's
penultimate.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
special shout out though to that episode too, just because that was the one that really first,
Yeah.
Blew me
Changed the
away.
game a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. Yeah,
What about you?
overall, I really liked it. I went in with very non-existent expectations. When I first saw the trailer, I thought, "Oh, that's interesting. Okay." Didn't really know what to expect. I thought it'd be kind of quirky and fun, but didn't really have much that I was expecting. It was a lot heavier of a show,
Yeah.
more story driven than I realized. Kind of like the zombie episode that was like very Zombieland esque, not
Mhm.
comedic isn't the right word, but lighthearted almost. I mean, it is the end of all humanity, but the
Yeah.
stakes are never really there.
Mhm.
I sort of expected that for every episode, kind of campy, kind of fun,
Yeah.
and seeing how story driven it was. We talked about this in a previous episode, but it took me back to the original Batman animated series
Mhm.
and I watched as a kid. And so my wife, I've mentioned, we watch all of our Marvel shows together. She's never really watched any animated series, and she thought it was great as well. And there was a definite, even though it was animated, there's a definite like relatability to the live action movies that we've
Yeah.
seen. Would agree with you that it wasn't quite as amazing as Loki and WandaVision. I think both of those shows are near masterpieces in terms of seasonal content. The only strike I'd have against WandaVision is the whole, they'll never know what you've sacrificed after she's like imprisoned them for however many weeks. That's the only thing that was like, what? Loki was phenomenal. And I mean, maybe people watching this would be like, you guys are total fan, like you're totally biased. I feel
Probably.
like I'm just, I'm okay saying like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I liked it, but it was, kind of run of the mill B tier in my mind, but I
Mhm.
still liked it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I think I'm somewhat objective. Maybe I'm not, but I thought What If was great. Doctor Strange episode and the penultimate are my two favorites as well.
Nice.
So any misses in your mind or things that you think other than bringing back zombie Thanos, opportunities they missed out on that maybe they should think about for season
Hmm.
two?
I mean, it's hard to say because like literally the possibilities are infinite for what they could have done, right? So like I guess if we in the constraints of like what they did do I think they like uh I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if I thought about this for a little bit longer, I'd probably have some things that I wish would have been done differently, but off the top of my head, not really. What
Mhm.
about you? Does that anything come to mind?
Um, no, I mean, I like the decisions they made. It doesn't really matter what I think, I guess. Like the random guy on YouTube. I thought Tony Stark's voice actor was miscast. I don't know
Mm,
why. It just really felt off to me. And then Ultron did fine, but I kept coming back to how iconic James Spader's voice
yeah.
is and thinking like, just throw the money at him. Like if we have Ultron back for season two, give us James Spader.
Yeah.
In terms of misses though, I mean, I thought, okay, yeah, this was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what happened there because surely money was no object. They got everyone else back. So I wonder if he just kind of like wasn't a fan of his time at Marvel or just maybe he was busy. I don't know. But yeah, that again, the guy that voice acted him, I actually really like that actor. It's the same guy that did Red Skull. Because what's that guy's the guy from the Matrix,
Yeah,
Agent Smith.
yeah, I know who you're talking
I can't
about.
remember his name, but so he didn't come back for Endgame, so like that wasn't him on
Hugo Weaving.
Vormir. Yeah, Hugo Weaving. So Hugo Weaving didn't come back, and so it sucks that I don't remember this guy's name either. I think his name is Ross, like Marquand or something. He was in The Walking Dead. He's been in a lot of stuff. So he took over for the Red Skull, and so then they got him to do Ultron as well. So like the dude can do lots of stuff with his voice, and
Yeah.
so no slight against him, but you're right. I mean, James Spader is James Spader, right? So that would have been awesome. But I assume they tried, and for whatever reason he couldn't. But yeah, that I would have appreciated that change as well.
I'd be interested to see what the stakes will be in season two, and what the
Yeah.
formula will be.
Mm-hmm.
We have a watcher now who has broken his oath, so to speak. It makes me curious about season two. What's the overarching story going to be? Will the episodes be fairly insulated from one another? Or will we get a continual story? We do know we're getting the Gamora episode. For those of you who are watching who thought, wait, what? What is this Infinity Stone Crusher? That's the
Yeah.
episode that they had to push back to season 2 because it wasn't ready yet. So we know we're getting that one. So we know we're gonna get one insulated episode. I'm curious about the rest for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about that the missing episode a little bit, but as far as season two, I'm wondering too because this episode we kind of got like baited a little bit, not in a bad way, but like, oh, these are all self-contained stories, but then oh no, in reality, at the end, they all came together. So that surprise factor is kind of gone come season two, you know. So it's like from the jump, if they do try to do the insulated route, is everyone going to be like, oh, but how's this going to be connected, you know? So I
Right.
wonder how they're going to approach that. Are they going to kind of just like let it go and maybe have these connections from the start, or try to like kind of bait and switch us again? Um, I'm not sure. I feel like it's almost kind of a no-win scenario for them, considering how they did it this time, because I feel like everyone's going to want the connective tissue. But can you really pull that same like flavor surprise off again? I don't know.
Right. Yep.
Um, but yeah, clearly at the very least we're getting some Peggy Carter stuff since that's what we got teased with. And I also thought it was interesting that they seemingly retain all their memories of this adventure they were on. I expected it to end with him being like, and now you won't remember this happened, but you know you saved the universe. But no, they do all remember. So it's kind of like, how does that not having a butterfly effect on what was supposed to happen in all these universes? Not to mention the freaking Black Widow going to
Yeah.
one where she was killed.
I yeah, I kind of have an impression that the Watcher's like on a bender now. You know, he broke his oath and he's like, let's just break everything. And it's like no rules matter anymore. And so it's like, though I'm curious his positioning with humankind because he does tell Black Widow, I do care, like I care more than you know.
Yeah.
Almost like they were like his children.
Hmm.
So that I'm curious to see how they continue to portray that and if how the Watcher will be involved in the live action movies, if at all.
Yeah, I think you will. I think that like this had some major implications that will definitely bleed over. Like, and if not from this season at some point. Um, okay, but it kind of combining these two things we're talking about now of like what to expect coming forward, but also that missing episode. Um, what a cool episode it looked like that we have a Gamora that killed Thanos in her world that's teamed up with a Tony Stark that seemingly was like from Sakaar. Like that's the vibe I got that like he built that. He looked like a gladiator pit Iron Man from
Yeah.
Sakaar, like equivalent to Hulk and Thor in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering like what's the what if there? Like was it that Tony instead of the Hulk ended up on that plane at the end of Avengers and ends
Right.
up on Sakaar, or like maybe when he traveled through the portal at the end of Avengers 1 to like drop that nuke, like maybe he got trapped on the other side and ended up there, or you know, like we could speculate for hours. But what happened there and how that ultimately led to Gamora killing Thanos and then figuring out this, you know, Infinity Crusher thing.
It's
And
gotta be the premiere episode for season 2, right? I mean, would it not be strange to be like the 5th episode? I
yeah,
mean, we kinda already have the implication of how it ends, and so in my mind, it's like, let's just get it out of the way.
yeah, and I mean, we already kind of talked about this on why the Watcher assembled the team he did. Like everything had to be that way to, you know, get to the end point. But it's just interesting that he didn't want that Tony Stark. You know, he just recruited the Gamora. Um, so I don't know. It's like what's going on there? And in that small scene we got of them, you know, they were melting down the Infinity Gauntlet, and Tony made some comment about like the like I think he was speaking like theoretically, but he was like, you know, the next big thing lurking in the shadows. And in that moment, like when he's saying that, that's when the Watcher appears, and the Watcher's reflection is like in his armor.
Right.
And so it makes me wonder, was that like an intentional, like ominous boding thing that like what the big next thing is, and the Watcher is the one that's like shown on the screen in that moment? And so, I mean, I don't think that like we're getting an evil turn from Uatu necessarily, but maybe like the Watchers themselves are like the next big threat because they found out that this one interfered and like wasn't supposed to or something.
That's an interesting thought for sure. I wonder if in the Eternals we'll get any other insight
Ooh.
too, since they're sort of missioned, as far as I know, by the Celestials, who I think we said have essentially put the Watchers in power. or maybe that was just a theory craft we had of like who's put him in charge, and we maybe had said the Celestials.
I don't recall. I don't know enough about this, but I think like the Celestials and the Watchers, I feel like are kind of on the same level.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I bet we're gonna get some more lore dump from Eternals, just in terms of this like galactic or whatever
Yeah, and
universal power
it
scale.
happens right after Endgame. Well, essentially right after Endgame, because in the trailer we saw, why didn't you get involved when Thanos,
Yeah.
which yeah, we're getting massive. This is the first, right? This is the first post Endgame film in terms of
Spider-Man
the
2.
timeline.
Spider-Man 2 is a post Endgame as well,
That's right. Yeah.
which was
But it
weird
didn't
because it came
really,
out quick. But it didn't really
yeah,
it didn't really touch on much. They kind of had a few jokes about like the blip and people coming back, but for the most part, it was kind of a self-contained story that didn't really touch on.
yeah. This one feels a lot more like the adding to the overall storyline of phase 4, 5, and 6, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision did too, but again, neither of them really.
Right.
There was no like grand implications. They were both very kind of like rooted stories. Um, but yeah, I honestly can't wait for Eternals. I'm really excited for that one. I'm a Richard Madden stan as well, so that
Oh
got the
yeah, you have to be.
Rob Stark, man, you can't go wrong.
Heartthrob for sure.
um,
So
but
I read
yeah,
about when he died in, sorry, everyone, spoilers. When he died in Game of Thrones, I read that he cried like the entire flight home. And I was like, me too, man. Me
me
too.
three. Maybe
All right.
we're getting the Stark reunion, so maybe we can have
Oh yeah.
some redemption here,
I like my headcanon is that like they're BFFs. Like they're just
like in
best
real life.
friends. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
Yeah. All right. So what's next for people tuning into the channel?
All right, so for my Marvel fans, we got Hawkeye coming up pretty soon.
Really excited for it.
Me
Looks
too.
great.
I'm really excited just for like the kind of Christmas like theme and having that like all through the holiday season to kind of like, you know, just enjoy. Looking forward to talking to you about it as well. And aside from that though, we have a Critical Role Campaign 3 coming out. If you're not familiar with Critical Role, well, we have a video coming out that will help explain it, but I'll touch on it briefly here. It is a live streamed Dungeons and Dragons campaign that takes place on Twitch. They actually stream to YouTube as well, but it's a bunch of voice actors that get together and play D&D for us to watch and enjoy. And it's really good. It's incredible. And we're going to be doing kind of an episode like we've done here for each episode of that. And that actually starts this Thursday, which is 3 days from now. So that is
So close.
the next thing that we'll be putting out. So we got that. We got Hawkeye eventually. And is there anything else soon that I'm
I
not
think
thinking
that's
of?
what's top of mind. Definitely for those of you who are watching who've never seen watch D&D. That is a personal favorite of Will and myself. I encourage you to check out some of that content, especially check out campaign 3. It's going to be really awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, we're at least planning to put out a video kind of explaining what it is for because a lot of people aren't familiar with it. But it's one of my favorite. It's hard to quantify a D&D campaign that's live streamed, but if you'll allow me to, I would. It's like one of my favorite forms of fiction, I guess. Like I would rank it up there with my favorite shows and my favorite movies of all time. Like
Sure.
it's firmly in that same top tier. So if you like stuff like Marvel, if you like stuff fantasy, Lord of the Rings, you'll like it. So definitely give it a try.
Mhm. All right, we got to do our thumbnail.
Yeah, what should we do for the finale?
I'm in two camps. I'm either
Okay.
in like emulating Doctor Strange gobbling up the universe,
Yeah, I like that.
or finale just like a thumbs up, like good job thumbnail.
Okay, I mean, I'm preferable to the Doctor Strange one
All
personally.
right, yeah,
So
let's do a
wait, one of
little.
us should be Ultron and the other one should be Doctor Strange.
All right, do you have a preference?
No, you should be Doctor Strange since you
Okay, I
you
was gonna
had the
say, who's
gobble
gonna
idea.
cosplay this for Halloween?
I'm sure. What should I just be like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, people are gonna be like scrolling, like, what is this? All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
All right, for those of you checking us out, definitely check out our Twitter at Pxlists. Check out some of our other content. And man, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
We'll see you.